I'm really glad to be here. I was thinking as the announcements were being read, there's two little beautiful babies sitting there next to me on the left. I was thinking about when my children were in diapers, and I had some painful thoughts come to mind because, a few years ago, it's only been I've only been in the program for about 6 years, 7 years, and my life was really a lot messier than what it is today. And um, when my kids were about that age, my life was falling apart and unraveling a few years ago, and it was a really sad time because I was faced with alcohol. Um, it made everything feel normal for me. It made me feel a part of when it first hit me, and when that warm feeling came over me, I had arrived. It felt great, and I knew that it was what I'd been missing. But it stopped working for me. It stopped. The effect stopped working. I knew that it was killing my body. It was my mind, and um, my kids were about that age when um, the onset of my downhill spiral started happening, and it was a very sad time because I was faced with, I grew up in church and I did believe somewhat that there was a God and that He was real, and I kept thinking to myself, how could God let something like this happen to me? And why am I dying? And my kids were just really hard because I would look at my kids and think, how could God, not only am I dying, but I was looking at my children and I thought, well, what if they die too? What if they have this thing I got and they're not going to get it, or they're going to die? And it was hard. It was really hard. And I was in denial for a while of being an alcoholic. I would, it took a long time to, I was very angry at just my situation altogether. I had been, and I started doubting people and everything, because the doctors, I'm a dual diagnosis. I have depression and anxiety, and I'm bipolar. And so I would go to my appointments, and I had a lot of questions about everything. When this alcoholism hit me and started, it made me question everything. Um, it made me really look into, what is your higher power about? Do you really believe there's a God, and are you going to trust Him? What do you believe? It made me question what I believe. And I will tell you today, I do believe there's a God. He is in my life today, and I see that everything that has happened to me has happened for a reason. And I will go into more details about my story, but just I do see that, that things that have happened to me, He has worked out for good. Um, there were times where I thought that my whole life was spinning out of control, and that I really was wondering, am I going to make it, or am I going to die from this? And I just thought, but that thought I clung to was that how could God let anyone die from this? You know. So I'm going to try to go back in my story. When I was little, the furthest back I can remember was when I was 5, and I was in school, and I had my first what I know to be a panic attack. And panic attacks would show up later on in my story in my life. It's a horrible feeling. I just felt that the teacher left the room, and all of a sudden, just this gut feeling in my gut, that just painful, terrifying terror over me that and the air was too thin, and my heart was racing, and I was like, where's the teacher? And I ran out of the schoolroom, and I ran to the office where my aunt was working. My aunt was working at the time, and when I saw my aunt's face, I felt comforted. I was like, that's my aunt. And I was like, I could take a deep breath, and I was like, I'm okay, I'm okay. you know um, and looking back, as I started to grow up in school, I remember early on, like middle school and early elementary. I remember the kids being mean, and I guess I remember being teased, and I remember also teasing a little bit too. And I felt like deep down inside, in those days, I felt like, I really am going to show you that I am good enough, and I am, you don't know me, you don't know who I am. And in my school, I went to a private school. My mom worked really hard to put us in a Christian school. She believed in um, the Bible and God's Word. We went to church, and I didn't much, you know, care for church. I really was made to just sit there, and I tried to squirm out anytime I could to go to next door. They would have kids, um, like a kids church, where they had this big treasure chest full of candy, and you know you learn your Bible scriptures, and if you could turn to it fast enough, you could get some candy out of the thing. So I know my Bible real well now. So, but and you know, in school we had to learn scripture verses, and um, I'm really grateful that my mom did what she did and the sacrifice that she made, because I'm thankful of who I am today. Because you know, earlier I did not like learning those verses, some of them. You know, I'm like, all this, you know, we had to memorize. It was part of our curriculum. We had to memorize that stuff, the scripture stuff. And I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? But you know, there were some years in my life that I'm really glad that I had that in my heart to be recalled through some really difficult times. And I don't think that I have more of a privilege than anybody else. I believe that there's you know, over in Africa, some child that never had a Bible, I believe that they have a certain in their heart too that God puts there. I just believe that everyone has that special something, and God puts it there. It's not that just because I learned the Bible that I'm special, but I do believe that for me in my story, that it is special that I was able to learn those things and the scriptures. Um, so you know, school, I remember just, you know, just the cliques, and you know, feeling like really, I felt like deep down, I feel like people, like, I didn't understand why that people didn't like me. I felt like I wasn't liked. I guess I was an attention hog. You know, I didn't get a lot of attention at home. My mom worked real hard. My dad had left us when we were 5, and he was off writing his own story about alcohol. And he left me and my 2 sisters with my mom, and my mom was pretty busy. She was working to get a nursing degree, and my older sister took care of me and my sister. And you know, I guess I wanted attention. I like attention, you know, and I think I still do today. You know, the programs help me better with it, but I love attention. And early on in high school, you know, I would really seek out getting good grades, because I felt like that got me attention from the teachers. I was kind of some of the teachers' pets, you know, and there were some people I didn't like in school. I felt like I really, earlier on, I had it hard with women folk. I guess the women teachers, like, we had rules in school, and like you had to wear certain things in school that, you know, like dress codes. And I felt like a lot of times, and it was true that there were girls that would come in and they would have like something totally you could tell. I could look at it and say, okay, that's totally off dress code. And I would come in with something I had been wearing all year, and my teacher would be like, okay, April, you need to go home and change that, you know. And I would just like flip out, you know, like, I've worn this all year, you know. It's not you know, it's if you can pick it up and it falls back, it's not too tight, you know. And so just that kind of stuff. I felt like I was just being picked on, you know. And so I kind of had this, like, earlier on, I had this kind of like I guess wild child bad attitude, like, you know, yeah. And then, you know, I would listen to music. Like, I felt like music was a little bit of escape for me. When I'd leave school, I went to a Christian school, so I'm the rebel. I'm gonna put Aerosmith on in my car, and I feel really rebel-like, you know. I got Bon Jovi and Aerosmith on. So that was part. And I did feel convicted at times in school, because we had to go to chapel as well. And, you know, of course, you know, the message of God was put before me in the way it was put before me. And I had, and I believe it was the Holy Spirit at the time. I believe we all have a spirit, and my spirit speaks to me today. It helps me stay sober and clean. It helps me, and it drives me to the right decisions. Well, earlier on, I feel like that spirit, you know, there was a message being given about, it was about music. And it was like, you know, and it had actually labeled some music, you know, at that time. You know, this music is the devil's music, so you need to give this music up, lay it on the altar, give it up. And I guess that was my earliest form of, you know, really being powerless, because I went to the altar and I was like, I really did feel a conviction of, maybe this isn't the right, type. Maybe this is the wrong type of music, And I really questioned it, and I would get in the car and again Bon Jovi and Aerosmith playing, and I'm like, there goes that out the window because I love music. So earlier on, I had tendencies to lean toward a powerlessness over things, and I had not taken a drink up until, um, well, I had a drink at my father's house when I was about 12 or 13, and it was a chocolate B-52. It was nasty. It was gross, and I just felt, I think I felt like prided that it was alcohol and that my dad was letting me have some, but it was nasty. I took a sip of it. It was gross. It tasted like NyQuil and chocolate. It was really gross. Nothing special about it. But my dad did play at Pig Pickens, and I felt really cool around my dad. My dad had Harleys. He had my mom and dad were separated. He lived in Lillington. He had Harleys. He had a motorboat. He had fun stuff, and I felt like, I don't know. I was very much wanting attention. So when my dad would go to bars, I liked to dress up in blue jeans and boots, and I liked to dance and get guys' attentions and everything. I guess that a normal woman alcoholic would probably do. Um, so and it was cool because my dad would sometimes let me have beer. He would buy me a beer and say, "Don't tell your mama, youngin. Don't tell her. Just that's all right. Just don't tell her." And he played. I never got drunk at those places. I maybe had one or two beer, but we went to a pig pick and he played at one time. And this is the first time I remember getting drunk. I was his beer go getter, and he was playing in the band. And he said, "You're going to be my beer go getter." I feel like I was being set up. So he had his van, his work van. He had this big cooler in the back of beers, and he was playing, and everybody was having such a good time, and I was actually um, just kind of in awe at these people, the way they were acting, and dancing around, and I noticed the main thing about it was every one of them had a bottle in their hand, and so I'm thinking there must be something to it, that what's going on here. So my dad sent me to the truck, and I get him a beer, and I got him one and brought it back. And then the bright idea came the second time. I'm gonna get him a beer, and I'm gonna get me a beer. I'm gonna chug a beer and throw the beer in the woods, the empty bottle, and then I'm gonna take him a beer back. And nobody will ever know because I'm like, these people, they're off in Neverland or something because that's the way they're acting. So I did that about 3 or 4 times, and that's when I had that magic, like just magic. It was magic. I mean, the music sounded wonderful. I could dance. It was cool. I mean, like, this is the cool thing. This is why the people got these bottles in their hand. And I guess I drank too fast because I got sick. I went to the bathroom and threw up and puked, and my stepmother came and found me, and my dad kind of just looked at me, and I kind of felt ashamed, but he was just like, "You're just like me, youngin. You're just like me." And I was supposed to be the designated driver home, and I wasn't that night. But that was the time I really felt like it. But I didn't drink again after that for a while until after I got married, and I didn't go right back to it. It's like um, when I got married, me and my husband went to the Bahamas, and we had an open bar in the Bahamas, so I pretty much got drinks whenever I wanted, and I was actually afraid to fly. So after we got off the airplane, I was scared. That was when I had my next panic attack. When I saw the airplane, I'm like, this is just not, if God wanted me to fly, I'd have wings. This is not happening. And so I went to the bathroom, and I closed the bathroom door, and I had a huge panic attack, and I'm like, I'm breathing hard, and I'm like, Nate's parents bought this huge trip package to the Bahamas for our honeymoon, and here I am going to ruin it. I can't get on the airplane. I'm like breathing really hard. And then I came back out, and I'm like, just get yourself together. So, and I walked over there, I walked beside, I'm like, nothing's wrong. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And I got on the airplane, and I was scared. And but when we got over there, I was really relaxed. They had a bar, and I drank. And I don't remember getting, I never blacked out. I was not a blackout drinker. I never blacked out. I do remember going on a booze cruise, and I got really, really, really messed up. And I do remember having a really horrifying panic attack while being really drunk in a small bathroom about this big, holding the walls like this, saying, God, if you just help me through this, I will never do this again. And I just remember feeling so scared, like like just scared. I guess I had drank so much that I didn't black out, but I was just out there, and I was actually scared. And I remember sobering up the next day, and I didn't really drink anymore until we left to go home. And I remember when I got back home from that trip, I don't know how far, I don't know when it started happening, but I started having bad panic attacks, and I started having depression. And it's like my life started, right after I got married, started on a downhill spiral. And I started to have the monkeys on my back because, I had that get you, God's going to get you because you're not doing things right. And because my mom would tell me to go to church, and I was actually out of church, for a while. And I guess it's because I didn't feel like I lived up to what they expected in church. And I wasn't living right. And I knew I wasn't living right. And I didn't want to be there. And but I really felt like God was out for me, and I was scared, and that made me panic. It made me have panic attacks. I was depressed. I turned to the bottle a little bit, but not like on an everyday basis. And I just remember that being an awful couple of years of my life, just really awful. And I hung around with my mom, and I would go to shopping places with her and just be under her wing, and I just felt a little comfort being there with her. And it also comforted me to know that she had been through that kind of stuff too. Um, and so somehow I guess I got into the doctor's office and got medications for the things that were happening to me for that, and it actually, I guess, it cleared up. And right after that, I was still in school. I went to school for art. I love art. Um, Graphic design, and I really poured myself into art projects. And I believe alcoholics are talented, whether it's an art project or whatever project. When we find something to do, and it says that in the big book, we do it to the best of our ability, and we really get into it. We really want to do good, and that's how I was in art. And I had some really pretty pieces of art that I did, and I look back now, and I'm really appreciative that I was able to experience that. I did have a very, very nervous thing about getting up in front of people. I have always had. It's amazing that I stand here today and do this. It used to scare me to death. I remember in college having to do like a college class where you had to get up and present something. That day before, it would tear my nerves all to pieces. I would be sick as a dog, like thinking about, oh, I got to get up and stand in front of them people, and I was sick over it, just totally sick over it. And once, I would do it, and once I did it, I was fine. I was like, oh, I did it. It was like a big thing, but I'm just really glad today. That's one of the things that Alcoholics Anonymous has helped me with is it's helped me face things. It's helped me face things in my life I don't like to face. And speaking and getting up in front of people was one of those things. And reaching my hand out sometimes when I don't want to, make the effort, or I don't feel, it makes me be social because I know some of the latter parts of my drinking, I was very much an isolation drinker. I like to isolate. I YouTubed music, and I would lock myself in the back room, and I would just, that was my area. And um, it was really hard for me to be social. It took a lot of energy, it seemed like, to be social. And I've come to find out that that's a thing that most alcoholics have, is that we tend to want to isolate and be alone. And today it's not a bad thing. I can have time alone, but I have to balance it today. I have to get out to my meetings, and I do. This is my home group. I love this group, and I'm thankful for it. And I wasn't when I first got here. And I know y'all have heard the story about me throwing my book out the window. And I was like, God, how could you do this to me? I think it was the second year I was in the program. I guess the first year was a little bit of a pink cloud, but the second year I was like, I can't believe I'm an alcoholic. And it's just things were not going my way, and I didn't feel like I was being heard, and I guess it was because I wasn't listening. You know, I didn't know how to listen. I didn't know how to listen to other people, and I had to go through just a rough process of, you know, because I would get out in the car and be like, I actually used to hate speaker meetings, I don't know what, well, kind of because when we would have the circle meetings, you know, I was able to talk and raise my hand and spill out my guts to you guys, and y'all listen to me cry. Robert was here when I was first getting sober, and I can't imagine like what I was like earlier on. I know I was very upset and I cried a lot, and I know Tony was here too, and they could tell you that I was very much upset about being here, and but you guys listened. This home group listened to me, and I was never told, April, go out the back door. We don't want you here. You know, they kept me here, and they stayed, and they listened, and they just nodded their head, and they said, keep coming back. And then, you know, I did keep coming back, but like I said, I was very upset and frustrated. There was a couple times where in a meeting where I would get up and well, I used to smoke, you know, and I was a chain smoker, and so it was hard for me to like sit through a meeting. You know, the first year or two, like I would sit through about 30, 45 minutes of a meeting, and I was like about to die. Like I'm scraping my fingernails on the table, like is that over yet? You know, I need to smoke, and I just felt like, you know, I just felt like out of control. I felt like I can't even sit for this long and not smoke, or you know, I just felt like there was so many things in my life that I was powerless over, and I'm like, well, how am I gonna, you know? And God was like trying to tell me, calm down, April, you know, one thing at a time, you know, because it was my cigarettes and my weight. I'm like, I'm getting too fat. I'm eating all this food, you know. Y'all got me sober, and then I started like eating like crazy, you know. I gained all this weight, and God's like, I've got you in my hands, you know. I have been losing weight now, you know, a little bit, watching my food, what I eat, and trying to eat healthy and doing the best that I can. Not that I believe that the power, you know, always lies in that. I believe the power alone is my higher powers. But I try to do my best, and if I do my best and put my best foot forward, He'll make that answer. He'll make that right. He'll make it what it needs to be. I also had to learn to question my motives earlier on about things that I was doing. You know, I thought when I came in here, I'm like, it was really hard for me to grab onto the concept that it was hard for me to accept that I was an alcoholic. I was sitting around in a circle and I was thinking to myself, God doesn't make alcoholics. You know, I'm not an alcoholic. You know, how could, and I'm thinking, my spirit's fighting this program, you know. So I just had to keep on coming back, and slowly, you know, I started to realize that, you know, my eyesight started changing about things, the way I saw things and see things, and what the term alcoholic started to take on a new meaning for me. You know, what does it mean to be an alcoholic? Because at first, you know, when I came in here, you know, it's alcoholic, you know, just has all these bad pictures. I got these pictures in my mind of when you say alcoholic, what it is. And now today I see it not as, you know, a person sitting under a bridge, you know, drink. It's a blessing to me today to be called what I am today, you know. Um, and I do like the term when people say I'm a recovering alcoholic, because I like that, because I believe that when you are in this program and you really are set in and you do turn your wheel, you know, the steps are very important, and I do work those with my sponsor. And when you do the steps, you know, the admitting that you're powerless, that was the first step. And then, you know, turning the wheel over, you know, I work on a daily basis. I work the steps on a daily basis, and mainly the first step is in the forefront of my mind, that I'm powerless. Without this program, I'm powerless. And when I came in here, I thought that I knew everything. And I would tell you straight up and down, I knew everything. And I really deep down, and the sad thing I think about this disease is that we really do, I think, know everything when we come in here. We really believe we know everything and we don't need help, you know. And it was really hard for me to understand that the way the program is set up is how God wants me to live in His world today, and be a part of society, and be a part of a group of people trying to better themselves and do better for not only themselves but for everybody. And I just I couldn't see that at the time. And they're fine. But yeah, and my life is amazing today. My life is amazing today, and I do believe in God, and I believe in His power, and I had to come to a point where I believed in that, because um, I had failed, and what was going on inside of me with the alcohol. It was really hard when I realized that the alcohol, I had to stop, and I couldn't. I couldn't stop, no matter how hard I tried. And it's like it says in the book, you take an oath, you swear here and there, you do everything you can. You drink natural wine, you try to switch from brandy to wine to a beer, you do this and that, and I tried everything. And it finally got to a point where, that inner spirit, which I believe is God, said, April, that don't you see what you're doing? You're trying to hold on to something that's not good for you. It's not working anymore. You got to let go of it. And that was really hard. I mean, it was scary, because I had tried to stop before and I couldn't. And the physical, not just the physical, mental too. The feeling that over my body. My body had gotten used to this stuff. I mean, I believe half of my body was alcohol. It had turned to alcohol. It's like, so I was scared, and deep down I thought something really tragic would happen if I stopped. And it's a miracle I'm still here. I stopped. By the grace of God, I stopped. And I see that, I don't believe I would be who I am today had I not been in them dark places that I went. And my light does shine really bright today. I see it in you guys and gals' faces. I'm amazed at the people God puts me around today. Every person I come in contact with is a miracle today. And it's a little piece of who I am. When I see people today, and my children, my husband, I get to live this awesome life where I get to see myself in you people's faces. When I can remain humble and try to be humble to the best of my abilities. Um, I work the steps, like I said, and I may bounce around. I'm sorry if I do. I work the steps with my sponsor. I'm really thankful for my sponsor and sponsorship. Um, I really think I almost threw this out the window by just had it not been for God's spirit inside saying, April, just try, you know, just try it. And I think there's a Bible story, and I think it's Naaman is his name, and he had leprosy, and he was a king of Israel, and a very happy king, happy-hearted, but he gets this disease of leprosy, and he's miserable, because leprosy back then was, incurable. They didn't have a cure for it, and there was a little Israelite girl that they had actually taken hostage or refuge from her country because they had invaded that country. Well, she came back, and she knew a prophet, and she said, if you could only speak to that prophet, I know he could help you. Well, the prophet was a prophet of God, and he had, God's word in his heart. And so he went to that prophet, and he said, what do I do? I was told to come to you. And so the prophet, told him what to do, which the words came from God through that prophet. And he said, well, you need to go dip in the Damascus River 7 times. And this, I guess that statement that he gave him was just like, what? Dip in the Damascus River 7 times. There was another river closer to his kingdom, which was really beautiful. And he's like, why not that one? Why not just, and he's like, why don't you just hold out your hand and heal me now? And the wife, so he got angry and he actually stormed off and he wouldn't do it. And the wife of the prophet said, she said, honey, if he would have asked you to do something that was, simple, or, that was different, would you have done it? So why don't you just, do it? Why don't you try? And so he did, and he was cleansed from it, Um, so I don't know why I had to, I really fought the program a lot earlier on. And, I think I fight a lot less today. I know that, and I guess it's because I had a lot of fear, and it talks about it in the big book. Fear is wrapped in everything around us, and inside of us. It's intertwined in us. And that's because I didn't have a great relationship with God at the time. And it's not because God didn't love me. It was just that was where I was at that time, and I had to walk steps toward gaining that relationship with God. He was always there. I just had to. This program's helped me to learn to recognize Him and what He is. And because there are some things I think I've had to unlearn, because there's things that I had been taught because of people that had fear in their hearts, whether they had hurt, the big book talks about when someone does you wrong, or you're dealing with somebody, all of us to some extent have a spiritual sickness. We're all on our journey toward our Heavenly Father, and I believe that we won't be perfect till we get to Him. And so we all, to an extent, we struggle, and we have deficiencies and treat each other a certain way. And I will tell you this though, this program, the people in this program are some of the best people, And I don't know if it's my perspective or people, but this program it is really amazing. The people will give you the shirt off their back, and they're really, just you broke down on the side of the road, they would do what they, and they don't ask for anything in return. I think that was something that really that was something I struggled with, I guess, later on in the program, is like, can I really be this, And I wanted to be, it's like I wanted to be like you guys and gals, and I didn't know if I could be. I'm like, that's awesome. They would do this, and they don't expect anything back. It made me look at myself, because I used to, when I was going to church and stuff before, and this was when I was not really full-blown alcoholic, I would do stuff for people, and I would do dinners here and there and that, and I don't think it was always selfish, but there was some times where it was because I wanted either a pat on the back, or someone to know, I wanted someone to like me, or, just for reasons, that were probably not unselfish. And so this program made me look at myself, and even still makes me look at myself today. And I know that the enemy, alcoholism, can be very mean at times, because it can really shake me up and say, well, what are you doing? You're selfish. It's not even worth doing. You're not, it's not, you're not worthy to do that or this, and you're doing it for the wrong reason, so why even do it? And I've actually, prayed, and I've got my higher power by my side. He's powerful, and he's like, you go ahead and do your best and put your best foot forward. And he's like, I know you're not going to feel worthy, but you are worthy, and that's just the enemy telling me that I'm not. And it helps me. I think that's why I have such a strong service work core, because I don't look at what I can't. I do what I can. I don't look at what I can't do and get upset about it, because I can't do it all. But I do try to take what I can do and put my foot forward and do it. And I pray about it, because earlier on I think I said yes a whole lot, and it about run me ragged, because I wanted to help everybody, I wanted to save the world, and I was told that, I can't help anybody unless I can really take care of myself and help myself. And I've got a circle, and that's me, and I have to, mostly, that's what I can work on is myself. And in working on that myself, I guess that's when, people have actually have said, April, you look different. You like, you feel good. You lost weight. It's like, I guess it's the attraction thing. And God's used my testimony. I go up on Friday nights. I go up to the healing transitions, and I've been doing this for 5 years, and it has been a blessing to me. And at first, I'll tell you, like, it was hard. It was hard to give up my Friday night at first because I thought I was missing out all the families at home. And, because when I was first asked, I remember one of the ladies coming up, and I was at a meeting in Raleigh, and she said, "Do you give out rides? Do you go out on Fridays?" And I had to question, and I kind of, that jealousy my gut was like, Friday's my night. That's a family night, and we're going to be at home. And then I had to really stop and ask myself, what am I doing on Friday night? What do I need to do? And I prayed about it, and I said, I want to devote Friday nights to going up there and taking and filling my minivan up with ladies, and we're going to go out to a meeting. And I've been doing that for the past 5 years, and it has been a blessing. I pick them up, I have supper with them. I'm actually just started teaching them Zumba, and it's a lot of fun. I go there early, and it's a blast. These 30 or 40 women in there doing Zumba and having a good time. And there's actually girls that have a rough week and look forward to that class. They're like, I can't wait to do Zumba, and that makes me so super happy because number one, I love to dance and I love music, and I'm just thankful that I can be somebody's bright spot, and I think it's talked about in the big book. It talks about how you'll start to see a fellowship come up around you, and it'll be the highlight of your days in your life to see people's eyes open and the message come through to them. And I am starting to see that today, and it's really amazing. And I found my purpose in this program. And when I came in here, I don't think I really knew what I think it was my worth. My worth is what I found in here. And I'm so, so, so grateful that God has shown me through the things I've been through the last few years and through this program what my worth is and what I'm worth to Him. He's shown me that, not only me, but to other people, how much He loves us. And because I really, I guess I had deep down had fears of just not being loved and not having enough love or not being worthy. And there was a time, and I can't put it into words, but I think it was the third year of sobriety where He actually allowed me. I had a Paul experience where Paul saw, his eyes, he saw what God looked like, and God allowed him to see himself as God sees him. And for me, that happened to me, and it was a powerful experience. He enabled me to see other people as He sees them, and it was just the most eye-opening heart. It really burdened my heart. It brought me to tears because He showed me how much He loves us, and also how much we just try so hard, and He really cares about what we're doing and how we're trying. And it made me want to change. It made me want to change what I was doing, and it made me want to be a better person to my family and my husband and kids. And it made me want to not let this disease or any other cancer or anything take away the opportunity for someone to have this type of feeling in life that I have today. And I do believe one day that stuff will all be done away with. And I'm thankful for that. I hope for that because I have some friends that are struggling right now with that kind of stuff. And not only, it doesn't promise us, recovery, that it's going to be rainbows every day. But I will tell you this, there's been things that I've been through, and I've seen people go through things that God's given them peace over and said, April, or He'll tell me, this is not exactly what you think it's supposed to be, but you can't see everything I'm doing behind your back. Trust me, it's going to be okay, But it is hard when you have someone that you love, pass away, or, things that, because I think there's some things that I can't humanly fathom that I think God has a bigger plan for. But I do believe He has it all in His hands. But I am so grateful again to be asked to have this privilege to stand up here and to speak and to be part of such an awesome home group and to have such an awesome higher power that has enabled me to do all the things that I do. And I want to recognize a special lady. I really appreciate her and what she does and her story. And, it's amazing how this program works because, God will use the most unlikely things, because I would sit there and think, you know, because when I had to pick a sponsor, I was like, well, who in the world am I supposed to get? And I would say, because my first sponsor, when I looked at her, I thought, you know, she's totally opposite of me, probably, you know, totally, you know, and I guess that's how God had a humorous way of working, because I thought there's just no way, you know, here I am, and I'll share this with you all. Here I am, Christian, Bible, you know, and this girl, she's got like tattoo, like some type of tattoo of like Grateful Dead or something on her arms and stuff, and I'm thinking this is total opposite, and God like totally used people that I thought He wouldn't in my life, and things that I thought that He wouldn't. God's very creative. You know, that's one of His names, Elohim, and He's very creative. So He used things that I would not think He would use to get my attention. And so usually when I would say, oh, He wouldn't do that, yeah, He's going to use that, or you know, oh, I wouldn't do this, yeah, I'm probably going to do that. You know, He's just that way. But anyway, Susan's my sponsor, and she's been my sponsor for a couple of years now, and she has a powerful story. She's been through a lot, and she's a woman who holds her head up through turmoil, and shows her light to other people, and she's shown me that light, and we meet on a regular basis together, and I'm just really thankful for her. And I just wanted to give her, no, wait just a minute, I wanted to read this. I was up at the intergroup office, and they have some really pretty cards up there at the intergroup office. It says to my sponsor, because I believe that each person uniquely is individually important. And I think that sometimes it's a little bit scary when you get in the program and you think that you're going to get lost, you know, but God doesn't lose. He knows each and every one of us, and each and every one of us are important, I believe, and we all have an important role that not one other can play. We all have our own special role. This is something Mother Teresa said. It said, we ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. That's what Mother Teresa said. It says, I love you. I want to thank you for sticking by my side during a challenging time of my life. Your presence provided much needed comfort and support. I am ever grateful. And I want her to have this. I'll bring it to you. And thank you for letting me speak tonight.